Well, while they're still collecting, one of the things I'd be interested to hear from all of you, and we spoke about this the other day on our conference call together, is it's hard enough to figure out for your own system. How do you integrate across systems? How do you stay in touch with folks both during sort of the emergency events and then for longer term planning? I mean, that's a question for all of you. So who would like to go first?
I'll grab that one first. One of the things we do, everything we do and operate, we go through the City of Boston's emergency management and through the state emergency management, and there's no other way you can, after watching Katrina and everything else, no other way you can do it. In the planning stages, it's always up to us to contact the other utilities and share information. And that is something we're doing. We've, on this sea level rise, it's been an incredible amount of sharing with all the players you've heard about and in the city of Boston. And that's the only way you can do it. If you don't share it, having it yourself, you'll never make it alone, because they have good ideas too. Ours are usually the best, but they got pretty good ones.
You want to go down the line, or any other comments on that? I've got a bunch of questions here, but if other people want to comment on that, feel free.
Yeah.
Go with the questions, unless you want
Want to go with questions?
No, go right ahead.
Okay, so the first question, I think, again, this is open to a variety of you on the panel. How can you help architects and engineers convince owners to be energy efficient?
I'd love to take a stab at that one, because we actually have an entire department around energy efficiency. And I think an important component of some of our funding structures gives us an opportunity. We're actually decoupled from the cost of energy. When I sell you a kilowatt hour or a therm of gas, it's at my cost. It's pass through. So I'm not making money on selling you energy. So it puts us in a unique place to be able to drive energy efficiency, because we aren't paid for the product. We're paid for the service. And when we make those agreements, driving energy efficiency is one of our key skills. And I'm sure in the architecture world, there's been plenty of partnerships with the utilities across this U.S. for the same type of service that will help you build a most efficient building around the gas and electricity usage.
So it kind of gets back to what Mike was originally saying about making that business case, really, and
Yeah.
messaging it right. And it was a similar question about rainwater capture beyond just a simple rate for savings. John, thoughts on that?
Well, we encourage all the rainwater capture. In fact, we're going to spend $100 million capturing rainwater off of streets for pollution control, but it also will take that first inch of water away from us. Every building in the city of Boston must handle their first inch. They have to handle it. A lot of them are infiltrating it, but if they want to use it for other purposes, irrigation, et cetera, they can. We have found that taking some of the rainwater and trying to use it for purposes such as toilets can be a little dicey because of the quality of it, so some people have to treat it. So it's less expensive now simply to irrigate it, hold it, or infiltrate it, which is one of the big things we do in the city.
Great. A question for Steve. Why wasn't floodproofing considered in the original design of the central artery? Economics, poor understanding of current or future flooding, politics? You can choose something not on this card as well as an answer.
Well, the fact is that they did incorporate some form of sea level rise prediction in the project, but that was in the mid-'80s, and then, so they were assuming a certain level of sea level rise impact. But we all know now that things have changed. Things are changing rapidly, as a matter of fact. So a 1980 assumption is not the 1990, is not the 2000. And so I think that's how it worked. I mean, I wasn't involved with the project when it was being designed, but I do know, to look into the records, that they did account for a certain amount. But I don't know how they come up with that. Maybe it was that bathtub model scenario. But I've simply seen some images today that are going to come true, and that flooding will happen like that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve. Mike, one for you. What about the discount rate for evaluating the cost effectiveness of a climate adaptation measure? Can you talk a little bit more about how you might do that?
Sure, that's a great conversation, and one that getting alignment on would be extremely difficult. I can tell you as a couple of data points, what happens is as the length of time, and these are long horizon calculations, and as the length of time extends, you have the number and type of adjustments that you have to make become enormous. Typically, between 4 and 7 have been some of the numbers that have been out there. When I hear that, that just strikes me as low. But I'm told that as the regional growth gets factored in, there's dilution and things like that that enter into those calculations from an economic standpoint. And those are, I can't say if they're right or wrong, but those are some of the data points and some of what's being used at sort of a national level.
Okay, great. How about 2 more questions? Does that work? Okay, perfect. Marie, what are some of the options being considered for moving generation closer to the users?
We've embarked on a few demonstration projects that are we were able to do with photovoltaic. Now, we've done a few of them. One is in Haverhill. We have quite a large solar farm up there. But we are looking to try and build a type of energy that can be relied upon more than you would wind or solar, which can have gaps. And the other piece that I think is in its infancy, but I think will be the game changer, the next game changer, is storage. How do you take those renewables? How do you store them? And then how do you create the right inertia to put it back on the system? Because the network is actually quite delicate for being able to control the voltage and the stability of the system. So I've heard people say, oh, let's bring, they believe we can get 1.3 gigawatts of solar into Massachusetts. It would be rather hard to keep the network up. So there's saturation points in different type of energies, but when we're bringing them closer, it's smaller plants, cleaner plants. We've seen a lot more growth in small gas-fired generation. So I think some of those will be at the forefront as we go forward in the future.
Okay, great, thanks. And last question, John, this one's for you. Have you considered resiliency for more than one tidal cycle in the analyses that you've done?
Yeah, we have, if you noticed, during Sandy, actually it stayed high tide. It came in and just stayed there. So if the amount comes up and takes 18 hours, so be it. Our real thing is whether or not we have enough workers to keep them working all week. Do we have enough workers that'll come to work because their homes are flooded? And so that's a whole management scenario we're running now. But once you get the water in there and it's full, the buildings won't be full, the people will be there, they'll be surviving as best they can. The good news is plenty of good, fresh drinking water. Bad news is go to the second floor. So we are looking at it, but we haven't fully developed that, but we'll do that in accordance with both the MWRA and the city.
Okay, thanks again to all our panelists. It was a great discussion.